Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is a place where we talk about all things entrepreneurship and making money online as virtual assistants. In today's episode, I'll be talking about a client onboarding process. This is the process through which your client goes through from the time they're interested in your services as a virtual assistant to the time they finally get to start working with you. It's also the method that I use in my business. I've refined it over the years, and I can say right now, this is what works best for my business. And it's also what I teach in my podcast manager roadmap course. So if you're interested in becoming a podcast manager, regardless of whether you have prior experience working online or not, feel free to check out the links in the description box below. I'll be linking all the resources that I mentioned. So if you're interested in becoming a podcast manager or interested in becoming a virtual assistant, I'll be linking all the resources that you need, including the link to my course, and you can enroll anytime and go through the content at your own pace. So today I'll be talking about a client onboarding process. What is a client onboarding process? This is the journey through which your client goes through from the time they're interested in working with you to the time you finally get to start working together. And I'll be taking you through the process through which any client that is interested in my services goes through. And I believe you'll find it useful. So stick with me to the end. So, the first thing that a client usually does when they're interested in working with me as their podcast manager, whether they want to launch their podcast or they want ongoing support, the first thing they have to do is to fill out an inquiry form. This is the form that I have linked on my website under the Contact Me tab. So, when a client clicks on my website and they want to reach out, they can choose to do, there are two things they can choose to do. One, they can opt to send me an email, but then I usually prefer that they fill out the form that is on my website. So this inquiry form usually has qualifying questions, a bit of personal questions such as their name, their email address, the name of their podcast, if they've already decided on one, or if they already have one that is ongoing. I also get to ask a few qualifying questions such as what their budget is, whether they are within, like whether they are ready to invest in my services, the kind of the goals that they have for their show, where they want to see their podcast in the next, say, 1 year or 5 years. These are just a few questions that I get to ask even before we get to interact, so that I get to know whether this is the kind of person I'd love to work with, or whether this is the kind of show that I would really enjoy working with. Remember, virtual assistance is all about working with clients that you love, doing something that you really enjoy. And this is the freedom that comes with working as a virtual assistant or working as a podcast manager. So once a client fills out the inquiry form, I'll receive an email notification. Well, before the email notification comes in, they'll be able to select a time and a date when they want us to chat more about the kind of support they need. I use Calendly for this. You can use that as well. They have a free option, like a free option within Calendly. You can choose to upgrade, but then the free version does a decent job, and that is what I use. So once they pick a time and a date when they want us to hop on a call and get to know each other and get to put faces behind the businesses, they then submit it, and I receive an email notification that someone is interested in my services and they've picked a certain day for us to meet and get to talk more about the kind of services they're looking for. Now, after I receive the call, of course, it's usually linked to my calendar. I also usually just prefer to manually add a reminder on my phone so that I don't miss on these calls. So the call that we finally get onto is, I usually refer to it as a discovery call or an intro call, where we get to talk more about the kind of services the client is looking for and the kind of services I offer. I also get to ask questions about if they worked with virtual assistant or a podcast manager before. I just get to ask a few questions based on the kind of support they're looking for, so that at least I get an idea of what kind of client this would be, and also so that I get an idea of what I can expect if I choose to work with them. It is during this call that we get to decide whether we are a good fit for each other. The client gets to decide whether I am a good fit for their podcast, or if I get also to decide whether they are a good fit for my business, and I also determine whether I'll be happy to work with them. And we usually let each other know during this call. And during this call, it's also important to let your client know what they can expect after the call, like what are the next steps after the call. This usually helps in setting the pace, so that at least once you hop off the call, the two of you know what to expect. The client knows what they'll expect from you, and you also know what to expect from a client. Also, during this call, you need to set timelines in terms of, you can let, so during the call, for me, I usually tell them that after the call, and depending on whether we have decided that we're a good fit for each other, I get to tell them that I'll be sending them a proposal with all the details that we've talked about, a proposal containing the kind of support they're looking for. And if it's a customized proposal, I'll let them know within the proposal that the services they're looking for will have to incur a certain amount of money. But if it's something that is already within the packages that are on my website, I just let them know upfront that this is the amount of investment that they are going to make for me to support their show. So after the call, well, before I go after the call, during the call, you also need to let them know that you'll be sending a proposal, if it's a tailor-made one, like a customized one, or if it's just a proposal that you'll add a few things that you have talked about that were not in your previous package. And I let them know that this is what they'll expect, and they can expect that from me within 24 to 48 hours. Now, after the call, and we have both decided that we'll work together, the next thing is sending the proposal. And within the proposal, you can use Canva to create a proposal. And for my students, I usually provide a template that one can go in and customize based on the kind of services the client is looking for. So you need to send them a proposal and let them know that this is the amount of money that they're going to invest for them to have access to you. And once the client goes through the proposal and they're happy with it and they get to pick the packages that they would love for us to go with, I let them know that the next thing would be a contract and an invoice. Now, I usually send the contract alongside the invoice because I realize that sending them one at a time tends to delay the process. And I also realize that when a client just reads through the contract and they're happy with what they have read and there are no amendments to be made, they're usually ready to pay there and then. So here's the thing with my services, one has to pay upfront 100%. So because I trust myself and I know that I will deliver on what I say I will. So far, I haven't had any client resist on that kind of model. So I get to, based on the contents of the proposal, I get to now customize the contract template, which is also the same template that I give access to my students who take my course. So I get to customize it and input the package that the client has picked, and also create an invoice within PayPal and then send it as a link alongside the contract. So there are various online platforms through which you can use to send a contract. You can choose to make your contract a fillable PDF, or you can choose to use services such as HelloSign, which recently rebranded to Dropbox Sign. So this is free and it allows you to send 2 or 3 contracts a month, which is they renew that. So you can send up to 3 contracts a month for free. You get to send this to your client and they sign and they pay the invoice. Once a client pays an invoice, and this is something I normally tell them during the discovery call, that I am usually sure that they are my clients after the invoice is paid. After the contract is signed and the invoice is paid, the two have to happen for me to now set time aside and slot them in as my client. So after the invoice is paid, I just send them a thank you email and let them know that they should expect a welcome packet from my end. Now, a welcome packet is usually consolidated information about my business, about my onboarding process, about the kind of things I'll expect from them. And this can be created in Canva. So you can just hop on Canva and create a welcome packet where you let your client know what they can expect working from you. If you normally offer referral discounts, you let them know within the welcome packet. You let them know your hours of operation. You also let them know what the communication in terms of responses. So I usually tell them all this with during the discovery call, but then I also emphasize it in the welcome packet because sometimes clients tend to forget. And also I realize that sometimes you get on a discovery call with a client, but then you're not the only person they're considering. So they tend to forget these things. So by putting all this information in a welcome packet, I am able to emphasize on how I operate and what they can expect. For example, I let them know that they can create a Dropbox or a Google Drive folder and upload, say, the branding, like if they have any colors they would want us to stick with, if they have any templates, if they have like the cover graphics, anything that I'll need during our relationship and during my support and during the time that you're going to work with together, I let them know in the welcome packet. So once a client receives the welcome packet and they have all the information within the welcome packet, I also get to let them know what I expect, like the next step after they receive the welcome packet, which is usually creating a Dropbox folder or a Google Drive folder and uploading all the assets that I'll need for us to launch their podcast. Also, within the welcome packet, I normally, if a client is launching their show, I normally link a podcast launch like form where they get to input the information that they would want to be reflected on their show or on their podcast host. So the welcome package is really important. Even if you skip all the other things, it's important to send a client a welcome packet so that the two of you are clear on what the next steps, especially when you get to work together. Also, if you'll be doing check-in calls and stuff like that, you need to outline this during the discovery call and also repeat it in the welcome packet so that your client remembers and your client is aware of what is happening and what they can expect working with you. Just to go through what I have said, the first thing a client normally does when they get to work with me or when they're interested in my services, they have to fill out an inquiry form so that I get to know how, like the kind of person I'll be meeting during our discovery call. This is also a form that helps me qualify or disqualify anyone who wants to work with me. I then get to hop on a discovery call where we get to have our first conversation, we get to know each other, and we also get to know what it looks like working with each other. After that, I get to send them a proposal where this is just a plan of how I'll be supporting them and what they can expect and the investments that is expected on their end. After the proposal is received and they're happy with that and they choose what they want to go with, I get to customize their contract using the kind of services they have selected or the package that they have selected. I customize a contract and also an invoice. I send this together so that they go through the contract and they sign. After they sign, they get to pay their invoice in full. And then I let them know that they're now welcome to the family. I get to send them a welcome packet where I outline what it means or what they can expect working with me. And after that, of course, the client gets to share with me all the assets that I need. And that is how we finally get to work with each other. If this is something that you find very useful, feel free to implement in your virtual assistance business. Or if you need any kind of support or any further information on how you can become a podcast manager, feel free to check out the course link in the description box. below. Also, if you'd want to connect with me on Instagram, I am over there as Women Working Online. Feel free to inbox me. I'd love to connect with you and I'd love to chat with you and find out how you're finding the virtual assistant space, how you're finding the podcast management space, and just let us connect and get to know each other. Until next time, bye bye.